Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Just going to give a few minutes here for some people to come on in and start asking some questions in the comments. How y'all doing this evening? Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone's doing great this evening. Hope your New Year's going great. Just waiting for some of y'all to come on, start asking some questions, and we'll get started. You guys keep me on my toes, keep everything fresh for me, so I enjoy answering your questions. All right, let's see some. So we've got some questions coming in. All righty, here we go. Got a 0% rating for shingles. What would be the next step? So in my mind, the logical next step is study the CFR Code of Federal Regulations criteria for the next higher rating, which I believe is 10% for shingles, and see if you meet that criteria. If at any time in the future you meet that criteria, you might consider putting in the claim for increase. But at this point, whoever examined you did not feel you met that criteria, or if you feel you meet that criteria and is an error, the decision that was just made, appeal it. So that's totally up to you. You have to look at what the criteria is for the next step in that rating and take that into an account as you decide whether to appeal, put in for increase, add things secondary, that type of thing. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Is tinnitus an easy one to get? Working around running jets. It is. I would consider it easy to get if you complain about it in the military. If you have a MOS that's highly likely, there's a list of MOSs that were highly likely exposed to a certain level of noise exposure over time. Clearly expressed to the examiner what you go through, what your hearing situation is, the ringing in the ears is, and you might also want to add a statement. There's a good example of a tinnitus statement in the file section of this group that might help. And so you want to make sure that the examiner understood that you worked around jets, and from that experience, your ringing in the ear started. Tell them if it's constant, if it's intermittent, if it's less frequently that it happens, and describe what it sounds like to you. You know, can you not sleep because of it? Can, you know, does it affect other things? I'm 100% and no longer working. Will I eventually get P&T? P&T status doesn't come automatically. It has to be some type of claim or something that is asked for, but you might already be P&T. If do you get survivor, the letter you got granting you 100% say that you would get dependents educational benefits? If so, you're permanent in total. Not, you just might be 100% scheduler, which means you're scheduled for a future exam for something, or either you applied for unemployability and was granted unemployability. A couple different things that could be going on there. Hi, Alexis. What is the significance of a personal statement? Does it help, especially filing multiple conditions? Does it slow up the claims process? I cannot overstate the importance of a personal statement when filing your claims, especially initial claims, but for increases, anything else. I mean, personal statements connect the dots for those that are reviewing your claims. It tells them exactly what you're claiming, the history of it, what you're going through daily now. And there's all sorts of laws concerning late evidence and that the VA has to consider it in its decisions. I believe the Court of Veterans Appeals just ruled the other day that that if your C&P examiner did not consider late evidence, that is cause for remand, just cause for remand for another exam. That's how powerful late evidence is. And the more of it you have, the more statements you have from more different people, the stronger it gets, like buddy statements, family statements, that type of thing. So I consider it an important part of the claims process. I know there's some different feelings on it. It does not slow the claims process down, especially if you give it up front. But yes, definitely add personal statements in your claims. Remand done December 28th. Had CMP done September. Was least likely 50% or better. What are the next steps? Somebody needs to rate the claim. That's the next step. It's just sitting waiting for somebody to rate it. A lot of remands stay in obscurity for a while before they're pulled to an office or a work queue for to be rated. I see them just sit there and sit there and sit there, and something needs to be done about it, just like it was done by the appeals process. How long after BBA grants the effective date when they deposit the money? It can take some time. It has to be sent back to the regional office to be processed. So I can't tell you exactly. It can vary. It could be 90 days. It could be 180 days. It's just all a matter of when the regional offices who gets the decision processes it. Is carpal tunnel a valid claim? Yes. How hard is sleep apnea to connect to TBI? Is it better to do it to PTSD? The best thing about this question is that you can apply for it to both things at one time. You do not just have to do sleep apnea secondary to TBI or sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. You can do both in the one claim, because what the law says is that a veteran is not a medical expert. Essentially, any claim is a hunch. So you can say I have a hunch that is TBI, it could be connected to my TBI. I have a hunch that could be connected to my PTSD, and let the medical professional figure that out. So definitely, if I'm going to say, if you're going to go for one, go for both. Unless you have a specific nexus letter or some evidence geared toward one or the other that would weigh in one condition's favor. Was diagnosed with depression, was denied for not having service connection. Be my next step. Getting statements. I would need to know the exact reason why it was denied. For not having service connection, does that mean there's no evidence in service? Did you add personal statements? Yes, you could get nexus letters. But if you're saying there's nothing in service, no conditions happened in service for those things, then you need something that says that it happened in service. If they're saying there's no chronicity, that it's showing it happened over a period of time, then you need to prove chronicity. If they're saying that there's no current diagnosis, then you need to prove a current diagnosis. That letter that you got, the rating decision letter, will tell you exactly what you need to do to prove service connection, or exactly what you were missing, and you need to pay special attention to that reason and fill that void. If I have a claim that was stated not service connected, how do I get it service connected even though I was treated after the service? Evidence, you need evidence, nexus letters, buddy statements, personal statements, medical evidence is going to be the biggest thing. Have you continued getting treatment for it after service? Is there any reference to it in service? Is there anything you can apply for it? You can claim it secondary to. I mean, they say there's two ways to skin a cat. have you thought about alternate ways besides direct service connection that you could get it connected? If you're currently rated for anything. But my thing would be to don't give up on it, to appeal, or either put in a supplemental claim, or which is in a form of appeal, but keep your effective date alive by continuously pursuing the matter. Don't let it die if you feel like you have a valid claim. There's all different type of factors going on in that question. That's a little broad. I don't know how long you've been out or what the condition is, so a lot of different things going on there. Why did they send my remand to the AMC? The Appeals Management Center handles certain types of claims. They handle most remands, and that's likely why it ended up there. It can stay there for quite some time. Is it good to have a Nexus letter for a medical person stating one or the other or both contribute to this? It can be both. It can be, I'm not saying that it's better to have either one. It can be both. It's in that medical professional's judgment. So if they say one of them, if they say it's more connected to PTSD, then you might want to go with that. Can I file for sleep apnea as secondary to PTSD? Yes, you can file for that. If I was denied for sleep apnea, even though I complained during service documented and applied for sleep apnea within a year of service, can I file for sleep apnea under PTSD, or can I add a doctor's statement and appeal it? Has been 4 years since. You can add a doctor's statement and do a supplemental claim. You can file it under secondary to PTSD, either one. That's completely up to you. But yes, you can do it both ways. How is permanent and total versus regular 100% determined? Basically, if it's determined by the adjudicator, a person who reviews or rates your claim, they have that decision-making authority. And if they feel that any one of your conditions has the chance of getting better, which means it's not, they don't rate it as static or not, any chance of improvement over the long term, then they're going to rate you as permanent and total. If any condition is not rated static, which means it has a chance of improving, then you're just going to get 100% scheduler if all your disabilities add up to 100%. I hope that makes sense. It's all up to the adjudicator. I see this a lot of times when people get 100% PTSD, that 100% itself for PTSD, that they'll schedule a future exam for it. And so that would just make it 100% scheduler and not 100% permanent and total. It's definitely something, if you're savvy enough, that should be fought up front. Because I would just go back and probably appeal and say, hey, this should be permanent and total. But you do realize anytime you open a claim, you open everything back up, subject anything to re-examination. So keep that in mind too. Are we allowed to submit medical literature related to a diagnosis to prove it to possibly be secondary, such as long-term use of, yes, and diverse, yes. That is totally allowable. You can submit as much medical literature as you can find from valid sources. Make sure it's not just veteranwantstowin.claim.com that you're getting it from. You know, you want to get it from a reputable source. And include as much of that stuff as possible. Try to include it up front so the doctor reviewing your claim, the examiner, CMP examiner, sees it. If the VA refers you to a civilian doctor for sleep study, you're diagnosed with sleep apnea. Does the VA require a CMP exam once you file a claim? Yes, the VA is still going to do a CMP exam. My decision was completed in December. My date was as of December 2018. How long does it take to get back pay? I haven't received the full 100% pay in January, but received the difference in December. I don't get that. So you received the difference. So you received some back pay, but not all back pay? That would cause me some concern, being that it's almost the end of January now. I mean, you might get it with the February check, but if you have a representative, I would ask your representative that question. There's a piece of a page in your file called award print, and it explains back pay and how it's prorated and paid out and that type of thing in each veteran's case. It's a page that's generated with the award letter, but they don't mail it out. So it might be worth a visit to a VSO to ask. But at any rate, you should be getting back pay soon, unless you were retired or they have to do an audit on your case or something like that. Are there some reason, like they're recouping separation pay, that they're withholding your funds? There could be a number of reasons. Got into a car accident while in the military, but seen by a civilian doctor and records cannot be found. Help. Was anybody else in that car accident? Do you have any buddies that could write a statement? Any superiors that that accident was reported to? Definitely do a sworn statement about it. But what were the injuries from that accident? Were you seen at the hospital? What hospital were you seen at? Did you get seen for that injury again while you were in the military? Like you hurt your back in the car accident and then you got seen again a couple months later for your back? Was there any chronicity in care? Is there a police report of the car accident? That might help you. Is there an insurance record that you can go back and get that shows you were in an accident? That might help you. Try to think outside the box a little bit there. I retired in 1997. They were not doing sleep studies at that time. You're right. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. I've been diagnosed with PTSD and I have been using CPAP for the last 21 years. from my civilian sleep studies and statements from my expert team leader and guys I work with, but VA has turned me down. What else can I do? This is one of those things that you might have to take to the Board of Veterans Appeals. Do not be afraid. It takes time, but if you have sufficient evidence and the VA keeps turning you down, you can't be afraid to take your claim to the Board of Veterans Appeals and let them do a thorough review of it. You have the paperwork from civilian sleep studies, statements from your expert team leader. You can also get a Nexus letter from a doctor, a sleep doctor, that says, hey, this likely started during his active service. Also, have you written a statement yourself? I see ex-platoon leader and guys that you work with, but have you written a statement yourself about it? I just received the denial letter for a higher rating of PTSD. I'm at 70% now. What can I do? You can appeal it if you feel like you deserve the 100% level. It's sort of difficult to get the 100% level, but if you feel like you deserve it, you can appeal that 70% level. You can try to add secondary things to the PTSD to get a higher rating. You can get an outside opinion that might rate you a little higher for PTSD. Those are pretty much your options. Can one claim secondary high blood pressure, secondary to diabetes, even if high blood pressure isn't vegan? Yes, you can still make a secondary claim. Question regarding supplemental claims and back pay. But is it true they will only back pay from the date the VA diagnosed you, not the initial denial letter? In a supplemental claim, unless the claim has been continuously pursued, then you're either going to get paid from the date you were diagnosed or the date of the claim. It's not going to go all the way back if it's been more than a 365-day lapse between claims. How long will it take my wife to get Champ VA? I would give it a couple months. Champ VA does not move fast. If you have some problems there's a whole group on Champ VA on Facebook, and they have some folks you can reach out in there and maybe get things sped up. But I would give it 60 to 90 days after you return the application. I'm currently awaiting DR review. Did my CMP exam in October 2019. Just got a letter today requesting evidence that I missed work due to my disability. I go weekly to the VA for therapy and have taken numerous days off. Should I be worried? I wouldn't necessarily be worried, but I would, in response to that letter, I'll write a statement with all your appointment days and say I've had to take these days off for VA treatment, and just give it to them straight like that. My husband is going through the process with our local VA here in Wisconsin. He was at Bucholz, McClellan in Alabama, and was a chemical warfare specialist, hands-on with all the chemicals. His ATS, he thought I know it. multiple sclerosis in 2014. 4 hand surgery for dissolving bones, non-hyperthyroidism. Had 2 medical retired from working in 2004. Been going to the fight for some type of compensation for service connection. I would strongly suggest in this case that you get a Nexus letter. You need a Nexus letter. A medical professional outside the VA to say that this is connected to his service. It's likely that some of the doctors he's seeing might do it for him if he just asks. I'm sorry to hear he's going through that. Supposed to have a final decision in November. I'm sorry to hear that. No rhyme or rhythm to the timeline for decisions. Some move fast, some move slow, depending on what they need. Just make sure they send you a letter that you respond to with the evidence that they need. Can you still appeal a decision even though I've already appealed once and I have new documents to prove my conditions have worsened? Yes. You can put in a supplemental claim, which is a form of appeal, and appeal again. Is osteoarthritis a hereditary condition? Not much info at the CFR. Now the X-ray that showed. Yes, I believe that it is of a specific body part. He did get one from his neurologist, and they still denied it. Then I would, like I said earlier, you can't be afraid to take things to the Board of Veterans Appeals. If you have the medical evidence, if you submitted the lay statement, the personal statement, have you gotten the CMP exam results and seen what they said, that the actual examiner said about your husband's conditions? That might be the game changer and where things got discombobulated, and then you rebut what the examiner said. However you can, or you get a doctor to rebut what the examiner said. Hello, if the VA have you do an exam, but it's only record review, how long that takes? Because I found 100% surgery and incorporated all in one claim instead of breaking it up. The average claims these days are running 125 days, somewhere around there, and that's about the only timeline I can give you for that. One of my clients, I filed temp 100% in last week of October, and he had a decision mid-December. So that's just one veteran's case. Might not work on that timeline for everybody. I was medically retired for fibromyalgia. What's the highest rating I could receive from the VA? I believe for fibromyalgia is 60%, but I could very well be wrong. It might be 40. You want to look up the CFR for that schedule for rating disabilities and check that out. I believe it's either 40 or 60, but I could very well be wrong. When the VA only deny you solely for performance. Yes, that should help your appeal. Whether it's good enough is up to the adjudicator, but yes, that can be added as evidence. Depending on the appeal route you take, if you did a higher level review, it can't be that the record is closed, you can't add evidence. But if you're in a legacy appeal, a Board of Veterans Appeals with evidence lane, you should be able to add that. They denied all medical claims based on them losing my medical records where I served. They told me writing and even told the representative from the congressman office. This is a very difficult case. I would go through the BVA database and look up other cases where medical records have been lost. It's extremely difficult to prove when medical records have been lost, but it's not impossible. You have any pictures? Can you get with buddy statements, family statements, statement from yourself? Get all those as sworn statements, clergy statements, command statements, anything you can do to help repaint the picture for the VA. You know, did you break something in service? You know, did you the more info you can give them, the better in this situation, because the law says that the VA has a heightened duty to assist when records are lost, but it doesn't say it has to grant it automatically. What is the percentage rate when asking for an increase or secondary ratings for the VA to look at everything? I'm over 55. Unless you open PTSD back up specifically, if you're over 55, they should not re-examine it. Sorry that was difficult for you. I was sent to the VA for a hearing test and was then sent to outside ENT. I explained to them that the tinnitus causes insomnia, but I have a PTSD diagnosis. But they rate me with insomnia secondary to tinnitus, even with PTSD. Yes. But the thing is, if you're rated, you can only be rated for one mental health disorder. So if you're already rated for PTSD, they're just going to combine the insomnia with it and give you one rating. What's the difference between an appeal and a supplemental? At this rate, it's the same thing. It's just that you have different options to appeal at this point. There's 3 different lanes. Well, that's actually more than that. You can appeal, do a supplemental claim as an appeal, which means you add new evidence and give them a reason to relook at the decision. You can do a higher level review, which the record is closed. You can't add new evidence, and there has to be some error of fact of law that would cause an adjudicator to find an error and either make a different decision or send it back for reprocessing. Or you can take it to the Board of Veterans Appeals, and they have some lanes there where you send it direct docket review without new evidence, with evidence, or with the hearing. And all those different things take different amounts of time. So a supplemental claim is a type of appeal. It's probably one of the easier type of appeals because you can keep adding new evidence and keep getting your claim reopened. I worked on higher frequency tinnitus in the military. I would do a personal statement and a Nexus letter. Because of high frequency tinnitus in the military. and connect the dots for the adjudicator and for the examiner who will be examining it. Are there any medical literature you can add that show that connection? Any other, persons you work with in the military that also got that type of cancer or got cancers? Hello, I just recently retired and pending my CP exam. My question is, while I was on terminal leave, I was told that I would need a total his work. I already submitted my claims. However, my BSO informed me I couldn't include that in my initial claim process. I scheduled with the surgeon on the 28th this month. So since I have not had a CMP exam, will or should I mention to the CMP examiner at my first visit? You will have to file a claim specifically for that hysterectomy, and I would do it as soon as possible after your surgery. If you're still within a 1 year of service, it's more favorable for you. Although that VSO, please explain your title again. I tried to explain to a friend but couldn't. I am a VA accredited claims agent. I love being a VA accredited claims agent. It's in between a VSO and an attorney. I can do pretty much what an attorney can do legally, but I have not. Well, I went to law school for a little bit to get a certificate, but I did not graduate from law school, and I'm not a member of the bar. And I am not like a member of the DAV or anything like that to be one of their service officers. So I'm independently accredited by the VA to do VA claims and VA disability work. And I thoroughly enjoy it. Hopefully a lot more of you, once you start understanding the process and get your claims handled, will go back and become accredited and help other veterans. It's very rewarding work. I got rated 50% for headaches, and in my summary it states severe economic inadaptability. There was no info for IU or any recommendation for it. What else can I do since I can't get PNT? Are you 60 or 70%? You need a little bit of a higher rating to apply for IU. Is there anything secondary to your headaches, caused by your headaches, that you can claim? I put in for IU last June, but while waiting on decision, the VA sent a letter to reduce me down to 50%. I had a CMP November 24th, which I think was good. I don't see anything in my case. Do I have? You shouldn't have to reapply for IU if they haven't made a decision on it yet. If they have not given you a rating decision that clearly says you've been denied IU or it's been approved, then it's still pending if you properly claimed it. Just separated. From separation to final rating, how long does the process take? If you did the benefits before discharge delivery process, you should have a decision within a couple months. The last veteran I did the BDD process with, he he had a decision within 2 months of getting out. So it should not take that long. Is it better to have a DBQ or Nexus to win cases? It depends on the situation. A Nexus letter is needed when you're trying to tie a condition to service. A DBQ only tells the VA the severity of your condition. A DBQ is like a CMP exam. It's just examining the condition and telling the VA the current severity of your condition. The Nexus letter is the medical opinion. It's the one that tells the VA it's likely as not, more likely than not, at least as likely than not, or less likely than not, that your condition is tied to service. So if there's different situations where you would need either. For instance, if it's not service connected and it's not service connected and they have told you that there was complaints in service, that you have a current diagnosis, but there's no link between the two, no doctor has given a link, then you need a Nexus letter. You need a Nexus, something tying the current condition and the condition you had in service together. You need a medical opinion. If you are just going for a claim for increase, then you only need a DBQ. You only need the current severity of your condition. You don't have to prove service connection twice. Does your job title require payment for your service? I am a accredited claims agent, so yes, my charge is 20% of back pay on appeals only. That's what most agents charge. Some lawyers charge more. The law allows you to charge up to 33.5%. But anything over 20% is not considered automatically reasonable. So my services do come with a charge. I work very hard, and but I take a lot of pro bono cases, a lot of free cases, and I don't charge for information like this. I mean, there's questions that just need to be answered sometimes. So this is one of my services, and I'm not charging you a dime. Yes, for the headaches question, I am at 90 with 70% of it anxiety disorder. I have a claim I'm waiting on for vision issues, second to the headaches, but I don't know if it's enough. You have enough to file for unemployability right now then. And with the severe economic inadaptability, it might be a good idea for you if you can't work. Thank you all. That looks like all the questions for tonight. Thank you all. Let's take one more. Would my secondary condition need a DBQ or a Nexus letter? Likely it needs a medical opinion, a Nexus letter. That would be the most important part. But if it's something that's not currently service connected, both would help. Three years at BVA, now at regional, waiting for final approval for IU, already 60%. And SSDI, do I have a chance? I would need some more details on your case to accurately answer that. What is the process to request to up your percentage of certain conditions for condition as a person? 4 years after. You just simply put in for an increase. You go on to eBenefits and fill out the application on va.gov or put in a paper application asking for an increase in that condition. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I pray you the best in your claims. Keep researching, keep learning. The more you learn, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have to fight the VA. And just don't give up. Continue to fight. You can do this. And together we can all help each other. Thanks.